The differences between Fn, FnMut and FnOnce in Rust are quite easy to understand. Therefore, in this video we are going to quickly talk about these three things and how they really relate to each other. So let's just get right into it. Okay, so we are going to simulate these three things or concepts with a small and simplified use case. Now we are going to build a really simple and simulated networking pipeline. That really means that packets just come in raw and we try to filter, for instance, for web traffic. So what you can imagine is really that we will have a packet here, a struct packet, and then we will have different functions that basically, like I said earlier, filter for web traffic, assign sequence numbers for TCP reliability, and then really sending them out to a socket. Now obviously everything in this example is heavily simplified, so we just want to check out what the differences between Fn, FnMut and FnOnce really are. Right, so like I said, we have a struct packet and we will actually derive a few things right here, which will be debug and clone. And just a quick explanation, a packet is just a unit of data being sent over a network, and we derive the debug so we can print things, and clone so we can duplicate packets without really moving them out of a collection. Now this is just needed for basically filter packets, the function filter packets later on. Okay, and then in this packet we will have an ID which will be basically just the sequence number, and this is just assigned later in the pipeline. So we can say ID, and this will be of type U32. And then we also have a destination port, so basically where this packet is headed. So we can say destination port and then U16. And then just to represent an open network connection to a remote address, we are going to use a simple network socket struct right here, which just will contain a struct field address, which will be of type string. Now in real code, this might wrap a TCP stream or a raw socket file descriptor. But like I said, this is really simplified, and the address field right here is just the IP or hostname we are connected to. Okay, let's just quickly have a method for the network socket. So we are going to say implementation and then network socket. And then we'll say fn send all, and then we'll use self right here, and then packets, which will just be a simple slice or reference to a simple slice. And then we're going to simulate the action right here. So we are just going to iterate over our packets, and then we are just going to print line something to the console. So let's just say sending packet, and then we're going to say hashtag and then these brackets right here to port over this, and then we obviously need to fill in these placeholders. So we say p.id, p.destination port, and then we also say self.address. And obviously this address comes from the network socket struct we are referencing to with this self right here. Alright, quite cool, and this is our send all method for our network socket. Alright, now with that in mind, let's just go to the main function right here and let's just create a few packets. So what we're going to say is we are just going to create a new vector, and we are calling this inbox. This can be basically everything. And we are going to create this new vector right here. And this will just contain the initial batch of incoming packets. And we can imagine right here that the IDs start with 0, obviously, so we will just create a packet right here with the starting ID 0, and then we will also have the destination port, which might be 80, for instance. Right, so we have something like this right here. So let's just duplicate this one and let's create two more incoming packets with the ID of 1 right here and the ID of 2. Destination port might be for the second incoming packet 22, and then for the last one 8080. Alright, quite lovely. Now the first use case is actually to filter the web traffic, and this will be the Fn example. So what we're going to say is we're going to specify the target port here we actually want to filter, which will be 80, and then we're going to say let mut web traffic. Now we are going to create a separate function for that, which we'll call filter packets, and all it takes in are the incoming packets. Now obviously this filter packets function does not take ownership of the inbox or of the incoming packets, so we're just going to say inbox right here with the reference to it, and then we have a closure right here, and this closure is going to capture the target port, right? And obviously for this filter, this kind of expects a return value which is Boolean, which basically means what packet to filter and which one to not filter. So we can say p.destination port right? Remember, this P will be of type packet, is equal to target port, obviously double equal, right? And right here, what is important to know is, like I said earlier, that this closure basically captures the target port right here by a shared reference, and it really never mutates anything, so Rust automatically implements the fn for it. And we are going to see it in a minute right here whenever we implement this filter packets function. But really, the compiler infers it kind of already by just saying, or by just accepting, that this closure only reads from its environment, right? And again, here we are just returning a bool. So true means we are going to keep this packet. So for instance, a packet which is on the port, or which has a port 22, which will be for SSH, will be dropped right here. Okay, quite cool. Now let's implement this filter packets function. Now let's go right to here, and then we're going to say fn filter packets. And then we are going to use this kind of weird generic thing right here with the where clause. So let's just define the function parameters. So we're going to say packets and then a reference to a slice of packet. And then we have the predicate, which is of type f. And this will return a vec, which is of type packet. And right here we have the where clause, and then we say f. So where f basically is of type fn, and then packet, and it will return a boolean. Now obviously we'll explain this in a minute right here. Now I've just kind of formatted this line right here to make it easier to read for you, so don't get confused by the formatting right here. Now to explain this function and this fn thing in plain English, generally, this function receives a slice of packets and a predicate closure. Now, a slice, in this case, the slice packet, is a read-only view into any contiguous block of packets. It could be from a vector, an array, or anything else. Now, the generic f right here is constrained to fn and then reference packet, and then return value should be a bool, or the return type should be a bool. Now, this fn just means that the closure only borrows its environment and never really mutates or kind of moves from it, and also it takes a reference to a packet and returns true if we should keep it. Now generally it's also good to know that the crucial concept is the inheritance relationships between fn, FnMut, and FnOnce. So generally all closures implement FnOnce, and those that can be called multiple times also implement FnMut or fn, obviously depending on the use case. Okay, let's just quickly implement the logic here for filter packets. So what we're going to say is packets, and then we say .iter. Now this just creates an iterator over our packet references. And then we're going to call .filter right here. So we're going to call our closure for each packet, and we want to basically keep the packet if the predicate function basically returns true. So we say p, and then we call this closure, right? And then we say .cloned and .collect. Now we say .cloned right here so that we clone each surviving packet into an own packet. This is why we derive clone on packet above. And then we are just going to basically gather all the clone packets into a new vec packet. Quite simple. If we save, all the errors should be gone. Pretty nice. And now we have the web traffic right here. And now this was the FN example. Now let's just get on to the FnMut example. Now right here, what we're going to do is we are going to assign a sequence number to the port, and we are going to do this in an unconventional way, or a not really good way. We're just going to override the ID of the packet to really simplify things right here. So what we can say is just let mut current sequence, and let's just start with 1000, for example. Now this is the state the closure will mutate. And then we're going to call a function, and we are going to name this function assign sequence numbers. And here we're going to pass in a mutable reference to web traffic. And then we have another closure right here. And then we say p.id is equal to current sequence, right? So we are going to write the current counter value into the packet, and then we're going to increment the current sequence by 1, right? So we are going to increment for the next packet right here. Now, basically this closure right here captures current sec by mutable reference, right? And it changes the current sec on every call. So Rust needs to kind of implement FnMut for it. Without really mutating anything, it couldn't really be FnMut, and therefore it would just be Fn. But we do not want this right here, so we kind of have this FnMut instead, right? So let's just quickly implement this FnMut function, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a new function which has the name assign sequence numbers. Then obviously we have this generic parameter f right here again. We have the packets again, but in this case it won't be a reference to a slice, it will be a mutable reference to a slice. And then we also have the assigner, which will be mutable, and this will be of type f. And then we say where, quite simple, and then we say FnMut, so this is the constraint right here, and then we say reference to a mutable packet. Now this might look really weird, so what is actually going on right here? Generally we take in a mutable slice, so this is the reference mut slice packet, so we can modify each packet in place. Now this whole where clause thing looks weird, but it's really simple. This FnMut basically means the closure is allowed to mutate variables it captured from its environment, and then it receives a mutable reference to each packet so it can change fields on it. Now the mut assigner binding right here is required because calling an FnMut closure requires a mut self, which can only be obtained from a mutable variable. Now this is just a side fact right here. Then what we are going to do is quite simple. We are going to iterate over our packets, and then we will just say assigner, or we will call the assigner closure and use the packet as an argument. And then all the errors should be gone, which is really nice. Okay, so this is the second example using the FnMut function. Let's just get into the FnOnce constraint. And for that, we will actually create a socket representing a live connection to a remote host. So we will just say let socket is equal to network socket. Remember, this was the struct we've defined earlier. And then we will say address, and we will just use any address right here. For example, this address, and then into, so dot into just converts the string literal, which is of type reference string, so a string slice, into a string, right? And then we will call a new function, and we will name this function flush to network. Now we will pass in as an argument the web traffic, and then we will also have a closure right here. And this closure right here will not have only one packet, it will have all the packets. And then right here we are just going to print line something to the console. Let's just say connected to, and then we will use socket.address, and then we will say socket.sendAll, and then we will use a reference to the packets. Okay, so let me quickly implement this function, and then I will quickly explain this block of code. Okay, flush to network should be relatively straightforward because we are not going to flush anything to the network. We again have the constraint f right here, and then we'll have packets as a parameter of type vector and then packet. And then we have the dispatcher, which will be of type f. Then we have where, and then where f, the generic parameter, is of type FnOnce, and then vec packet. All right, quite cool. Now let's just print something right here. We are going to say flushing network queue. Quite easy. And then we'll just call dispatcher with the packets. Right, so this dispatcher with the packets just calls the closure once, passing ownership of the packets. And after this line, the dispatcher is just gone and cannot be called again. Right, so if we're going to have this like here, this is not going to work because we have this constraint right here with FnOnce. Right, so a quick explanation for this flush to network function. Here we're just going to take ownership of the vector of packets, not a reference here, right? So the packets are now moved in, and then we have this wild constraint for our generic f parameter. And FnOnce again just means the closure may move values out of its captured environment. However, after being called once, it cannot be called again. And right here, the Rust compiler actually enforces this. Okay, so let's just get back to our main function. And now let's just look at this flush to network block of code. Now right here, what is important to know is we are going to add something specific right here because we are going to add the move keyword. Now the move just forces the closure to take ownership of everything it references. And here it really moves the socket into the closure rather than borrowing it. And this is just necessary because a closure might outlive the current stack frame, so Rust won't really allow a dangling borrow. This could, for example, happen when passed to a thread. And obviously because calling the closure moves the socket into the send all, it basically can only be called once. And that makes it a true FnOnce closure, right? So this send all call right here just takes the ownership of the socket, and when we call it, the socket is moved out of the closure, so the closure can only be run once. And at the end of this block right here, so right here at this point, socket is just dropped and the connection is basically closed. Or we kind of can think of that the connection is closed. And there's right now no way to kind of use it again after this point. So we cannot basically say socket.sendAll right after this sendAll function call. And another example would be, for instance, if we would have, or if we would use the socket right here again, or let's just say print line and then socket.address, this also does not work. And then we will actually see why not, because we kind of try to borrow of the moved value socket, right? So hopefully this was easy to understand. So let's just test this code right here. So let's just say cargo run, and what we should see is flushing network queue connected to the IP address, and then we are sending the packet 1000, so our sequence number, to port 80 over this address. Quite simple, but hopefully now you understand the differences between these three kind of concepts or constraints: FN, FnMut, and FnOnce. Now I know it can be quite complicated, but most often you will use this FN, FnOnce, and FnMut on closures, and lucky you, I've made a video about that one as well. So feel free to check out this video right here if you want to. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, have a lovely day, and bye bye.